Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Brandy Monsma with Veterans in Politics. Today we have Robert Plummer. Robert Plummer is a candidate for Las Vegas City Council, Ward number 4. And before we get to Mr. Plummer, Brandy, do you have any rants?
I have no rants.
Okay.
I could say how I got stuck in a snowstorm. Oh, the next morning I woke up and my tire was flat.
How did that happen?
I have no clue. But by the time, can we turn this down a little bit? I'm yelling and I'm whispering. By the time I got to the hotel, I was at 13 PSI. So a total of like 15 minutes went by and it said, low tire. I had just driven through a snowstorm. Like, did you know there was a snowstorm going on in the Northwest?
Nevada?
Our country.
Oh, no. When did that happen?
Now. Now.
We're like, what's snow?
Snow?
What is that?
Today?
Uh-huh.
Oh. Okay.
It's sunny outside. What are you talking about?
I texted my friends back here and I was like, how's the weather in Vegas? And they're like, fine.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, look at this.
And where were you at?
Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
And then I was planning on just doing the 10-hour drive, but half of it took twice as long. And then I got the flat tire thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate.
It's okay.
You made it here, though.
It's okay.
So it's
I wasn't going to complain. He just keeps asking me if I have anything to complain about. So.
I got to make sure she's all right.
There you go. Get it off your chest early so that way you don't take it out on me.
So Mr. Plummer, you were here for the endorsement interview process.
Yes, sir.
And congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
You are a recipient.
Very appreciative of it. And, gotta say, you're my only endorsement, so that's an awesome thing. And so I present that proudly and I speak proudly about it. And
Thank you.
So I appreciate you guys having the confidence in me.
And that interview you had with the panel is going to be very different from the one you're going to have here.
Okay, all right.
This is an hour of uninterrupted time.
Okay, all right.
Tell us about yourself.
Oh, where do I begin? I was born in San Francisco. My parents moved here when I was 6, so I've been in Las Vegas for 47 years and
Wow.
grew up over by Votech High School, but actually went to Valley High School.
Wasn't Votech on the hill?
Yep, on the hill. Grew up just below the hill there and graduated from Valley High School. Worked at Sam's Town till I was 21, till I joined Metro and did Metro for 28 years. And then left to become the chief of police in Napa, California, which one tourist destination to another. So it was kind of a natural transition. I was selected out of 67 other people. So I was
How'd they find you?
I found them actually. I was on a IACP's police website, and they talk about all the job openings. And funny story, me and my wife we honeymooned up there in wine country, and she's like, "Oh, I think we could retire here one day." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, okay." I was just a traffic cop at the time when we got together, so I wasn't thinking about that. And then career fast forwards, and I get to 2017, they post a job announcement. I show the wife, she goes, "Well, you're putting in for that, right?" And so, as every good husband does, you say yes, and you follow her lead, and it worked out. So it was meant to be, and went up there and had a good 2.5 years, but it was time to come back home to Vegas. 3 of my kids are here, or 3 kids are here, and then 5 of my grandkids are here. And so this has been home. So I was gone for that little 2.5 year stint, but it's good to be back. California is pretty, but it's not a very
I have a question.
comfortable place to live. Yes.
Were there a lot of drunk drivers in Napa?
Surprisingly, no. There were, but no different than Vegas. But most of the wine tours are driven by limos and large vehicles, so you don't get a lot of that. You get more people with DUIs with beer and hard alcohol than you do with wine. But most people that are drinking wine are being driven somewhere.
Sure.
So you don't get a lot of that. So actually, the biggest crime we got up there was child molestation. That's probably the biggest crime we got up there.
Wow.
Yeah, surprisingly enough. So a lot of elements to that, but that was the biggest crime that we dealt with out there.
So what was your highest rank in Metro?
Retired as a captain over Homicide Sex Crimes Bureau.
Okay.
So, yeah, made captain in 2015. Was over at Bolden Area Command. So I was there for just over 2 years. Bolden. Just over 2 years. Started the baseball league.
You know Larry Burns?
So Larry Burns, yep, know Larry Burns. In fact, when I was promoted to captain, I reached out to him for some mentoring, and 'cause, I was very fond of Larry. I remember my days when I was hired on. Larry was in SWAT, and Larry had that big, deep, commanding voice. And we were talking one day about shooting, because I wasn't a very good shot. I never shot a gun as a kid, so.
You didn't hold it sideways.
Didn't hold it sideways, and I didn't put grease on it, and all that stuff. I probably shouldn't say that, That might have, anyway. So, no, I didn't hold it sideways. I never really handled a gun until I got in the police department, and so I learned all the right ways to do it. But he was someone I looked up to, and I admired his leadership.
So what made you get into law enforcement?
So I think it was more, well, I'll tell you exactly what made me get in law enforcement. So in 1986, I graduated. So 86, I wanted to be an explorer, because I was like, I really like, I see cops doing this, and I was talking to the officer, said, be an explorer, then you go, or not explorer, cadet. Then from cadet, you do 3 years, you become a cop. So I was like, perfect. Well, just so happened in 1986, they stopped the cadet program.
Okay.
So I was like, okay. And I said, well, I'm going to run a hotel. So I was talking to at the time, the GM of Samstown, which was Bob Bogner, who became the CEO of Boyd Gaming. And we were talking in his office one day, young kid, Jerry Crow, trying, having a conversation. Yeah, so that dated me a little bit. But so we're having a conversation. He goes, what do you want to do? I said, I want to run a hotel. He goes, young man, you don't want to run a hotel. He said, that's too much work, and it's long hours and everything like that. And I said, okay. And so I was watching Channel 3 had did an expose on Metro Police. It was Cindy West and Dave Orr. And this was back in like 1987, 88. And it was almost like Cops before Cops became a popular television show. It's like a week-long or 2-week series. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I enjoy helping people. That's always kind of raised that way from my parents. And I saw that, and so I said, I'm going to go at it. So come 1990, I tested twice. So the first time I tested, I thought I was in good shape. I was just newly married. I was married at 19, so I thought I was in shape. And I played basketball, did everything. And so I go out to the run part. I pass the written, go to the run part, and I'm running. And that time it was what's the baseball park? Cashman Field. And inside the convention area, you had to run 12 times around the.
Whoa!
Slip.
What's that? Was that a mile?
It would be a mile and a half, 12 times. So I'm like, okay, I can do that. Who can run a mile and a half, right? I'm running.
Robert Plummer can't?
Exactly. Hey, lap number 1, I went out like gangbusters. Lap number 2, I was starting to fall in the middle of the pack. Lap 3, I was in the back of the pack.
Pace yourself.
Man.
Lap 4, I just ran out the door and kept on going. I said, I'll be back next year. And
you quit?
Well, I wasn't going to make it in time.
It's like going for SEAL training and ringing the bell.
Exactly. I should have. It was actually, because it was by the third, going into the 4th lap, I had like 6 minutes left, and I had to do 8 more laps. No way I was going to do it. So I said, I'll be back.
Were you walking?
At that point, I pretty much was.
We used to run 3 miles, and I used to run 3 miles in 18 minutes.
Right. See, now, but here's the positive of the story, though. I went home that day, told my wife. She's like, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to go back and do it again. You had to wait a year back
now
then.
I can't do it. But
And I ran every day, a mile and a half, until I
Good for you.
came back the next test. I did it in 9 minutes. And I was
Crushed
like,
it.
I crushed it. So after that, it was just, so one of the things that I pride myself on.
did a mile and a half in 9 minutes?
In 9 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
Not bad, no.
No, that's pretty good.
When you couldn't finish and you could finish, I was like, that's a success. So, but I pride myself in perseverance.
How old were you at the time?
I was 20 at the time.
Okay.
So, but you know what it was, man? My first wife, Hispanic, made a lot of homemade tortillas. I got to tell you.
Blame her.
Hey,
Nobody
that's my
forced
ex
that
now.
food to your
So much
mouth.
stuff here.
Did you hire Joseph Scalia?
No, they were so good though. Homemade tortillas, ain't nothing like it. So
I know,
anyway, I packed down the pounds, but by the time I got to the academy, I was down to 180.
How tall are you?
Just 6 foot. Well, 5'11". I think I'm shrinking. I've noticed myself going a little shorter. So
Mr. Plummer,
Yes, sir.
why did you become a law enforcement officer?
So I really enjoy helping people. I think
You could have done that with Catholic Charities.
I could have, but I like the excitement too. So I am somewhat of an excitement junkie to a certain degree. I think there's a certain level of adrenaline that you get.
Why not the
into.
military?
For
then?
I actually did want to go in the military. I wanted to, look, I'm sure I was in '85. I saw Top Gun. I said, man, I want to be a pilot. And I wore glasses. And they said, you can't join. I said, well, if I can't fly a plane, I'm not joining the military. So that's what happened. So when the time came to join the police department, that was my focus, my passion at the time.
How come you didn't run for sheriff?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. I was asked when I came back.
You got some kind of skeletons?
No. It's just, I just left Napa, 30 years, and I was really burnt out of law enforcement. And so as I'm sitting, as I'm talking to some folks, they're like, hey, you should run. And in fact, before I left to go to Napa in about 2017, I met with Joe. We were having lunch at one of our
Lombardo?
Lombardo, one of our coaching mentoring. And he's like, hey, we're having lunch. I say, hey, just want you to know, when you're done with your term, I'm going to run for sheriff. He said, okay. And so, and then things happen. And
is that what you told Lombardo?
I told that to Lombardo. Yep.
That you wanted to run?
Yeah.
When you were done?
Yep.
So what happened?
When he was done, I was going to run. I didn't make deputy chief when the time came. Some other folks made it. So I wasn't bitter, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my talents elsewhere and see what's out there. And it's very few times that people leave Metro and go to other departments and are successful. So I said, I'm going to take my opportunity and see what happens. I got a bachelor's and master's degree in organizational leadership. I said, 28 years in law enforcement, rose up the ranks. I mean, everything I could do up to this point was all earned. Everything after that is appointed. And so I got focused on the Napa job, and that's where I went.
So you served on the Keller, Young,
Gillespie, and Lombardo.
Yeah. So you didn't serve on the Lamb?
No, actually, I served under Moran.
Moran.
Keller, Young, Lombardo, and Gillespie.
Okay.
Yeah, so five sheriffs. 5 sheriffs. Yeah. The last of Moran's.
So now you running for Ward 4.
Yes, sir.
What are the boundary lines to Ward 4?
So Ward 4, the Summerlin Parkway that kind of cuts into Sun City, Summerlin, and then from Sun City, Summerlin down to Desert Shores, and then it kind of jogs. It's really weird how they cut.
So that's Stavros Anthony's.
Stavros Anthony's old district.
So one cop taking another cop.
That's the hopes. Yes, sir. That's the hopes.
Do a shirt.
I should. I might do that now. But yeah, one cop take. Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to do that. Am I going to give you endorsements rights or anything for that, or just?
Did you ask him for one?
I did, and he hasn't given it to me yet. So I think it's politics.
Well, maybe you need to take him out back.
I should. Like we used to do back in the day. But no, so yeah, so and then it goes out to now with the new redistricting. It goes out to Providence area, kind of Providence, and I live in that northern part of Ward 4 out there. So
what does a city councilman do?
I had to do some research on that as well. I mean, because I saw when I was with Napa, I'd sit in city council meetings, meet with them all the time, and really didn't get a sense of what they did per se. But I did my research. So they do, they deal with planning. They hire city manager, city attorney. They deal with community engagement pieces, and really, if you're doing it right, you're really advocating for your ward and the entire city, making sure that what's being presented, whether it's building plans or things that are going to affect your neighborhood, you address those things. So a good city council person is someone that's engaged and really pays attention to what the needs of the people are. And I learned, and this is not disparaging, but I learned during my time in Napa what not to do.
Sure.
And I see coming here what I could do to really have an impact.
It's actually a question that I have for you. Did California give you some new ideas for Vegas do's and don'ts?
Yes, they did. So one of the things that made me decide to go into politics was during my time in California, I was on the California Chiefs Board of Directors. So large Cal Chiefs organization. And we met with Newsom a few times and really didn't like the interaction with him because I always refer to him as like a Batman villain. He kind of gives you this vibe that he's so sleazy, right? But I was talking to some state legislators who were retired cops, and they said, we were talking, they go, man, when you're done, you should stay in politics or get in politics. And I said, why? And he said, well, what we see here in California is cops are done, public service are done, firefighters, they get out and they leave. And there's a big vacuum that's created. And so that big vacuum creates the ACLU, these folks that have no real idea what it means to be in politics, and they have agendas, and they start to craft these issues that we have. And you see that in California. So that resonated with me. So when it was time to come back, I said, you know what? At the time, it was Ward 6 was open. So I said, if you're always going to run for governor, perfect opportunity, be open seat. It's in my ward. I'm very familiar with it. And then the shift in the districts. But it worked out because I could go to 4.
Sure.
Ray Spencer's going to go to 6. So I'm already forecasting that's how it's going to end up.
Sure.
But
2 cops on the council.
2 cops on the
Be
council.
awesome.
That's going to be a big thing. But the do's and don'ts. And so here's an example. Me and the fire chief were out in Napa, and we had these issues with the homeless, right? Las Vegas has homeless issues. And me and him were talking. We're like, hey, what do we need to do to address this problem? And this was during the pandemic. And so me and the fire chief take all the city council members, different times, because you can't have them all together because it creates a quorum. So we take them all different times. And all of them tell us.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah. So when we do this, we get back, and all of them said, good luck. And our response was, good luck to what? Well, good luck. I mean, hope you can get some stuff done. And the purpose of doing that was to show them the challenges that are out there that we're faced with as a police department and the fire department. And we need the city council's help to advocate and fight with the county to get the funding to address that. And so that was in probably September, October of 2020. Mm-hmm. The fire chief left in December, and I left in January 21. So because we knew there wasn't going to be any help. And so we were facing an uphill battle trying to deal with that. And so what I learned is if you're going to represent people, you need to problem solve and figure out ways. You may not solve every problem, but if the folks that vote for you feel that you're actually doing something, they respect that, right? It's when you give them that lip service, say, oh, I'm going to do this and this, and you do nothing.
And they can see through it.
You can see through that. And so, and cops are by nature problem solvers. I mean, as a captain in Bolton Area Command, we saw the issues and crimes that we had in that community. I'll give you a quick story of a problem solving. We had a triple homicide over off of Jackson and D Street back in 2016. And it was a drug-related homicide, and it was a triple. So it's a horrible incident. Mm-hmm. But the crime was so bad that no one wanted to get involved. So I reached out to the Nation of Islam and the Baptist church that was just around the block from them. And we had meetings, and we called it D Street Strong. And they came together and walked that neighborhood for months and weeks, and crime completely stopped in that area because they were involved. The Muslims and Christians were working together to solve crime. That's great. And in fact, we solved it because
they didn't want to get their butt beat.
Well, no, yeah, because Nation of Islam walking through there. But working with those guys was great because they saw a problem, they saw a need, and no one ever reached out to them and say, hey, can you guys help and work together? And they did. And so we actually ended up solving that one because of their efforts, the pressure, and talking to people. And to this day, that's still a pretty safe area.
So when they were walking the streets, they were trying to get details about the homicide?
They were doing both. They were trying to heal.
Patrolling.
Not just patrolling. They were healing the community, trying to make it uncomfortable for drug dealers and those to set up shop. But also, if they would come across something, there was a number. They had a cell phone, and they could call it in, and we would follow up with it and stuff like that. And so, homicide was able to solve it, and person sitting in custody or in jail right now. I'm sure he's been convicted. Well, the way the court system's running right now, he may still be sitting in jail waiting for trial, but who knows how long the courts go with these. But yeah, so that's an example of that problem solving when you see problems, and it really just took someone reaching out to both parties and saying, "Hey, come together." And this was during a time, the war was pretty hot and stuff were going on, and people were like, "Well, Muslims and Christians aren't going to come together." But if you have a common purpose, which is for good of the community, why not try it? And what did we lose by trying? Nothing.
Absolutely.
In fact, we gained more from it because crime went down, and so just kind of helped with that. So that's an example of the problem solving that I think I'd bring to the city council.
So you retired, right?
Well, kind of. I came back in January, I golfed for about 6 months, and went back to work. I'm over at the Bellagio, head of security over there. So.
But you get PERS from
I do get PERS, yeah. I do get PERS.
Okay. Yeah. So why your interest in politics, and why Ward 4? Well,
interest in politics is you can't sit on the sidelines forever of what's occurring. My wife, I'll watch Fox, I'll watch CNN, I'll read newspapers, and I get really fired up on the nonsense that's going across the country. Mm-hmm. And it does, whether you're Republican or Democrat, the problem is we don't have folks that are willing to talk and sit down and talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And so my wife will do something about it. You know, she's like complaining about it, and you can only be so much of a Facebook warrior or say keyboard warrior, things like that. And so, and I feel that local politics you can have the biggest impact because you can really start to influence. You know, running for these congressional offices or these bigger state offices, so much money involved in politics, which is something I'm not a big fan of. I think money in politics kind of erodes the credibility of politicians. That's why I have a struggle sometimes because, you know, you have to raise all this money. You asked about the sheriff's race. I mean, I think the sheriff race right now, I think Kevin's raised almost close to $3 million.
Wow.
Does that mean he's the best person? You question that, right? And so, anyways, we won't go on that. But so that's why, I'm jumping in it because I want to make sure that as an elected, I think I have an opportunity to advocate and speak up. You mentioned PERS. I mean, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm not doing it for. I mean, I've got the job with Bellagio, paid very well. I could be very happy in doing that. But going into politics is not a career for me. This is not my career. The next step isn't governor or congressman or senator. It's actually a focus for me is to get young people more involved. And I was talking to one of the panel members, Ms. Sandoval, and I really liked the way she asked questions and talked. And so
she's tenacious.
Tenacious. And so that's the type of young person I think we need to start getting involved in politics. My neighbor across the street from me, he does my Instagram stuff, but he's 21. He goes to UNLV. He wants to get involved in politics. So
send them my way.
I will. So I'm looking for these types of folks to get involved because I think the young people today that need to get more involved. I think we, in the Conservative Party or Republican Party, however you look at it, became very complacent in Las Vegas. Everybody was making money, things were good, the economy was going, and the Democrats, wise and very strategic, started to build this coalition and started to really get the young people involved and started to make this movement to where now they're in charge of the whole county commission. And, you know, if they could, they'd be in charge of city council. And so, to your point about the question why, it's also to prevent the whole defund the police conversation. People say, well, they're not talking about that here in Las Vegas. Well, guess what? They didn't talk about it in Seattle. They didn't talk about it in New York. They didn't talk about it in Minneapolis until something bad happens. You get the wrong politicians in office, and next thing you know, say, well, we'll take $1 million from this budget. You take $1 million today, you take $1 million next day. Next thing you know, you're short so many cops now doing the job on the streets. You don't have these extra programs that cops do, and crime continues to go up. And it's all part of the whole restorative justice program, the bail reform, everything. It's a very complex problem, but I think if you, from a city council standpoint or county commission, if you're not advocating for public safety, which I think governor's number one responsibility is to make sure we have a safe community to live in, we're failing the people that vote for us.
So you're running for Ward 4, and the only people that could vote for you are the constituents in Ward 4.
Right, correct.
But when you have votes, most of the time is for the city at large.
Correct.
So what are the issues you see that face Ward 4, and what are the issues you see that face the city at large?
Good question. So Ward 4 specifically, I think is just maintaining a certain level of comfort that they have. I mean,
Where is Ward 4?
So Ward 4 would be Sun City, Summerlin, Desert Shores, then you kind of shift down to Painted Desert, Santa Fe area, up to Providence area. And then right between is a big county island. So it's a huge county island in the middle of it. But so I think for Ward 4, like when I speak to folks when I'm walking Sun City, Summerlin, it's just safety. They feel, burglaries are up. Crime is up, I think 21% in Ward 4. So crime is
a huge number.
That's a huge number. So in
What
property
type of crime?
Mostly property crimes, burglaries, larcenies.
Killing the ducks over at Desert Shores.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Auto break-ins, occasional stolen vehicles. Not a lot of violent crime.
Knock on wood.
But doesn't say it can't happen.
Killing the ducks is pretty violent.
That is pretty violent. You kill an animal,
Well,
you're on your way to, yeah, if you torture them, that's one thing.
That's not good.
That's not good, no.
Humanely killing, eating.
And eating, that's okay. I love to hunt. Actually, I hunt every year, so that's good. But, so I think maintaining safety and security.
You don't hunt ducks, do you?
No, I don't hunt ducks.
No,
Too
he
cold.
just goes and gets them from that lake.
Yeah, it's just too hot.
Although I did have duck with Joe Scalia earlier today for lunch.
Oh, well, did you have pate?
No, I think he had the oxtail soup.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Where'd you guys go?
Latai.
Oh,
Fremont Street.
Can't go wrong with the tie. The tie's good. It's good.
It's good.
You've been there?
No.
It's good. You gotta go.
You need to go.
You need to
Okay.
go. All right. But so public safety, good parks, good areas for kids to enjoy.
How many parks are in your ward?
Oh gosh, there's probably, as I'm thinking in my head, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm counting them in my head as I know the areas. Probably 10, 12, maybe 15. Just there's a lot of small little parks and communities. Pickleball's big, so I want to make sure the pickleball people are happy.
Who plays that game?
Man,
People
apparently,
in Sun City.
apparently, if you're over 50, you play pickleball. So I haven't picked it up yet, but it's a big deal in Sun City. And Starbucks had built some new parks, pickleball parks, and so there's a big deal.
I heard you did that.
Yeah. So that's a big thing. And then I think if you look from an overall city standpoint, obviously crime is still an issue. You look down at Fremont Street.
Let me stop you right there. Since you're a law enforcement, and let's say you're elected to as city councilman, what are your first steps into deterring crime in your ward? What do you plan to do?
Right. So I
Because
think
21% increase is huge.
So I think the first thing is to figure out what it is that Metro is doing in that area. What are the patrols like? I still have a lot of relationships with the captains because most of the captains were someone that worked under me at some point or another. So
And they remember when you docked their pay.
no, I never docked their pay. I treat them right. So that's the one thing I always treat people with respect. That's just one thing because I think you never know when you may end up working for that person.
The people you see on the way up,
That's right.
you're going to see them on the way down.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I've always treated everybody with respect, and so I still have relationships with those folks. But you look at what they're doing now and what their needs are. Oftentimes I know when I was a captain at Bolden, I would meet with a certain city council person, and the response was very minimal. In fact, it was almost There was no relationship. New city council comes in, works great, get along great. We do a lot of things. We kind of really empower. So I see where, as a city council person, I can reach out to Metro and say, hey, what are the things you need? How can I support you? And what programs are you working? Which ones work? Which ones don't work? And then how do we improve our neighborhood watch programs? How do we engage those areas that are victims of crime to be more engaged? You have First Tuesday. First Tuesday is something that Metro does.
Not a lot of people come to that.
Not a lot of people.
It's not promoted enough.
No,
What
it's
is
not. So First Tuesday is where each area command within Metro's jurisdiction holds an open house, and they have a topic of the month. So like most departments talked about burglary or sexual assault or different topics, and it's for the citizens to come in. But beyond the topic, that's usually a 10-minute presentation. Everything else is what issues are you having in your community so that we can address. And to your point, we don't promote it enough. And so some nights we'd only get 3 or 4 people.
Wow.
But as you start to outreach, meaning we would go into communities and drop flyers off, or we would use social media and stuff like
Familiar
that.
with
That's great.
Nextdoor?
I use Nextdoor. Actually, when I'm walking in neighborhoods, I say, I am walking in your neighborhood. Here's what I look like. I'll be campaigning.
Do not shoot me.
Do not shoot me.
I am not robbing your house.
Exactly. Because I got my campaign shirt
I'm in a suit.
on. No, I wear my campaign shirt.
Well,
so
like in that other, what was that? Was the African American was running down the neighborhood?
Oh, in
and the
Georgia.
neighbor-
Arbor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The
no way.
neighbor and the son and gang killed him.
What?
Yep. Arbor.
Oh,
Arbery. The
yeah.
Arbery
They're in
case.
prison right now.
Yeah, got life in prison.
Black guy running down the neighborhood. Go get
I
him.
feel like I heard this story,
Yeah.
but
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, Arbery
crazy.
case, yeah.
Not even making it up.
No. But I use Nextdoor, so I think
Because he was running in the neighborhood, he's black.
golly day.
That was his crime.
Golly day.
And they killed him.
They killed him, yeah. And so yeah, using Nextdoor, using those social media, and really, and even if we need to, take it on the road. Take it to areas where the folks are, so it's easier for them to attend. You go to Sun City Summer, they have a big clubhouse. You go
Right.
there, you do it
Absolutely.
there. Maybe you go to Desert Shores, has a big clubhouse. Northwest, you may pick a high school or a school auditorium. So be more creative with that.
You mentioned on either an interview or your website that you wanted public education on how to be safer. What are ways that you think people could be safer? What would you say to be more aware?
Well, the first thing is you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't be, how many people don't actually lock their doors? Don't lock their back doors or their windows.
I lock everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, I have an alarm system, so I know when everything's locked, but people do not lock their doors. don't lock their house doors or their car doors. So they wonder why they're victims of crime when they come out. So just being aware of that. 2 is people are very into their phones. They don't pay attention when they're walking. Most robberies are crimes of opportunity because they see you're distracted, not paying attention. So having people really get back to, look, I say this all the time, that the worst invention and the greatest invention is the cell phones. If we could go back to where you didn't have a cell phone, you had a long cord, you could talk on the phone, you knew to come in, if you had to talk to someone, you ran the house, use a phone, or I think we go back to that. I think things would be a lot better. But, and then actually knowing your neighbors. You know, that's a very basic concept, but people don't know their neighbors. I walk neighborhoods and say, hey, do you know your neighbor next door? No, I haven't met him. How long you lived here? Oh, 10 years. Well, you don't know your neighbor next door? So it's just like, we have to get out of our own little bubbles and get back into being engaged and understanding what people have. So I think those are some ideas. I think also is we do, Neighborhood Watch is a really good program. We do National Night Out, which is another great program. And those are well attended. And I think people go to all that stuff for the feel-good part, but they don't take anything back. And how do you take it back, right? And so I think, and this is to your point about marketing and education, I think in law enforcement, as a general practice, needs to do a better job of marketing all the good things that police departments do. From a national level, international chiefs of police or chiefs or sheriffs, they should create these marketing plans like other organizations did to talk about the good stuff. Some departments do it better than others. Some don't do it as well. Well, then for those departments that don't do it as well, let's help them out. Because we can look at the Ferguson effect, right? What happened in Ferguson didn't happen to do a big police department, had a small police department, and then it blew up. You look at Minneapolis, some of the tactics they were using when the George Floyd, bad tactics. So
yeah, for sure.
There might even be, in my opinion, I think there should be an opportunity too to look at a national post for the United States, for the country, so that the standards are across the board the same. Meaning, if you were in California, you were in Las Vegas, you were in New York, Missouri, Ferguson, everyone had the same standards. See, a lot of small departments... National post
meaning like a list of standards.
Of standards that everyone has to attest to. And if the United States wants to fund, police reform, that's where you start to make sure that small police departments, largely police departments, all receive the same level of training, and they all are required to stay at these certain standards. So then so if I was to go from here to, let's say, Idaho, the standards are the same. And you say, okay, this is how we do traffic stops, this is how we do arrests, this is how we treat people, this is how we value sanctity of life, use of force policies and things like that are standard. That's a challenge, right? Because there's politics in play. So anyways, I kind of sidetracked on that.
So if you got blowback from suggesting that, how would you defend that? Because that's a great idea, don't you think?
Well, I think the blowback is because there's what's in it for me. There's when you get to those organizations, what's in it for me.
Well, and you also have all these people that are like, defund the police, defund the police.
Right. At a national level, in fact, I was on a call with Stephen Horsford last year at some point. I was brought into this call, and we were talking about that, and that came up in conversation. Hey, Horsford, if you're willing to talk about reform or look at introducing a bill that addresses post standards nationally. And people say, it could work because it's going to take a lot of money, but to get all these other departments up to, let's say, the level of a metro or a bigger department like NYPD or LAPD or something like that. But you know what? It's worth it because then you don't have, because for example, Minneapolis, that technique that, what's the guy's name? The guy that killed, what was the officer's name? Hovind? What was the officer's name? In Minneapolis. That killed George Floyd. His name. That tactic.
Some mean guy.
Yeah, who teaches that tactic? No one taught that tactic. And so no one in policing taught that. And so, but if Minneapolis was teaching that, shame on them.
Whatever happened with that case anyway?
He got life in prison. So he's got sentenced life in prison.
So what was the tactic?
He
just put his knee on the guy's neck?
On his neck.
Why would anyone do that? Unless you wanted to...
Well, should have put it in his back.
Life.
In his back, yes, on his back,
or his side.
What about his chest?
You had 3 other officers there. You could have used, you use techniques. We use what's called Metro uses the. They get all 4 appendages, arms and legs,
Starfish.
and then one officer takes the head, and you control that until it calms down, and you get the resources there to take care of it. So,
All over
just bad tactic.
a fraud $20 bill.
For a $20 bill. And so that's, so to my point, that's where if you really want to address it. And so I think it's going to require senators, congresspeople to on board something like that and to promote something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you get it. That's where if you really want to make true reform, you have to look at it from a national. Now I'm talking about creating a national police. I'm just talking about standards, just like we have for lawyers, right? Lawyers have standards at a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
Police officers do for each state, but to make it nationally, because police work is so dynamic and so very similar, but yet different, meaning the areas of how you police in New York versus how you police in Las Vegas.
So what boards would you like to sit on as councilman?
Well, not PMS, on the fiscal affairs.
I knew that was coming.
That would be coming. Well, I think
Because that's 40% of Metro's budget.
that is, and it's also about 50% of the city's budget. So you want to make sure that when Metro's asking for money and what they want to spend the money on, that it's actually going to the right places. It's actually having.
Are you going to be biased to Metro?
Not be biased to Metro. Actually, I think to the opposite.
You're going to be more of a hardcore
I can
guy?
ask more of the questions that others that don't have institutional knowledge of Metro and of policing to say, well, what about this, or why not this, or
It
have
seems
thought
like you
about this?
understand it well enough that you can make good suggestions.
Right. Exactly. And so.
Whereas other people would just blanket say, no, that doesn't seem important.
Right. And, being a chief and, running an organization, knowing the challenges that it takes to be police, being a captain in a large organization, and hearing what, Metro's budget is going to is like, well, the questions like, well, why this? And make them answer the questions. And I think sometimes we just give rubber stamps to things. Well, Metro, boom, there you go.
What other boards?
LVCCA, tourism.
Convention?
Yeah. I'm big in supporting tourism, obviously working at Bellagio, but I understand that, if we don't have money coming into the city, the engine doesn't run. And so, but making sure we're doing it the right way. The one thing that, you hear about with the LVCVA is, there's the corruption, because people make a lot of money. And I think, we got to take
Corruption
that out.
everywhere.
Well, that's true.
That don't make it right.
That don't make it right. And we got to take that out of things. I mean, that's part of, I think, one of the beauties of what I stand for. As I'm not looking to make a career out of this. I'm not looking for the next best job, or I just want to do the right thing for the right reasons, get the right people in place, and I could actually just fade to black and let someone else take over from there.
Your kids are all grown now.
They are, yeah. They're 38, 29, and 26. So
Okay.
I started early.
So 5 or 6, right?
Yeah.
So do they live in Ward 4?
Actually, none of them live in Ward 4. Well, actually, one lives in Ward 4. My son lives in Ward 4. Yeah. But the other two live in 6. So Ray got 2 votes right there. So
Oh, automatic.
yeah. Actually, 3. 3 votes because they're significant other. Or 4. There's significant others. So yeah, he's got 4 votes. They're big supporters of Ray. So, but my son should vote for me, I hope. So I wasn't too hard on him, but yeah.
So when somebody comes to speak up at the podium, are you going to cut them off, or are you going to say time's up?
I know we have to be mindful
When it comes
of
to the
people's
public
time.
comment
Right.
section.
I know we have to be mindful of people's times. I think if you get your 3 minutes, you get your 3 minutes. I don't think you should interrupt them. I think you should cut them off. And I can tell you that from my time in Napa, I saw that all the time because I had to be at every city council meeting. So I sit there and folks were going on their tirades and they would get interrupted and they would lose their time. So I'm a believer of let people speak. And then when they're done, you can rebuttal or say the different things that you have to say as an elected official. But I think as servers of people, as what we're there to serve the people, allow them to speak. And then once you're done speaking, then you can rebut back. But we get in that situation where people want to, and next thing you know, that person's 3 minutes is up, and they didn't get their point across. They leave the diocese. They leave there upset, pissed off at the city council because they didn't allow them to speak. Hey, this is the people's office building. Let them speak, and then you can have your turn to respond.
So how are you getting to your voters? Are you knocking on doors? Do you have signs up?
So I got 9 A-frames out throughout Ward 4. I've got
Now
a
you
bunch
need
of
more
road.
than 9.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. That's the most compared to my competitors. So that's a good thing. I got a bunch of road signs, and I'm knocking on doors every day. Today I didn't knock on doors because I had to make sure I was here on time. But every day after work.
Well, I mean, you could have went in the morning.
No.
Plummer.
No, it's okay.
You couldn't get up early.
No, I get up early. I get up and go to the gym. I got a routine, so I got to get in the gym. I got to,
Right.
you got to stay fit like yourself. So I got to make sure I'm doing things that need to be done. But
I got to stay fit because I got a big mouth. Why do you have to stay fit?
Because I'm getting older and I don't want to die young. So I have a plan to live to be 100 years old.
I thought he was going to say I got a big mouth too, but he didn't say that.
I got a goal to live to be 100, so I want to stay fit. So, but I walk every day after work, and then I walk on the weekends, probably 6-7 hours on the.
You raise the money?
I am. I'm very proud that I haven't had to take loans out on my own self because I don't believe that's.
How much you raised?
A little bit over 40,000. So I mean that's not big money compared to some other folks, but I didn't have to take a loan out, and I got a fundraiser coming up.
Some people take seconds on their houses to run campaigns.
Well, first of all, that was a no go, and second of all, the wife said not only no, but hell no. So, so she said, if you're going to get it, you're going to earn it and go out there and do it. And then I think the biggest thing that I really found is knocking on doors seems to be the most effective way to reach people, and people are very, very impressed by
yard signs.
Yard signs, dropping those off.
Shirts.
Got shirts.
Got your walkers going.
I got magnets.
Get your walkers going. Except for you.
What's that?
Your walkers.
Oh yeah, I got the walkers. Yep, we're going to do a big super walk first weekend of May.
Okay.
We're doing the social media. Just filmed my video, so that should be coming out here in the next couple of days, and little snippets and hand cards. So I'm going to blanket the area and then start doing text and phone call, which I know is going to tick people off because people don't like to get phone calls. But you got to do it.
Damn if you do, you damn if you don't.
But you got to do it, right? How are you going to get your message out there?
And if you don't get your message, I'd be like, oh no, nobody send me anything.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to shortchange myself. And then also I tell people when I talk to them, when you look at your ballot, start from the bottom, work your way up. And they say, why? I say, well, because my last name is Plummer, so I'm going to be the last one out of the four of us in Ward 4. Yeah. So start from the bottom, work your way up, and then hopefully that'll
Hey, if I was in your ward, I'd vote for you.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, what about you?
Of course.
Okay, well, good. That was good. Thank you.
So, Brandy, do you have anything else for Mr.?
Yeah, you said something about homelessness. What do you think Vegas could do to address that more than we are?
You know, I know the city started with the courtyard, which is a really good starting point. And I think during my time in Metro, I know at some point the city, county, and Metro were looking at a program that they do in Houston, whereas you're bringing someone into jail, whether or not there was a homeless issue, a criminal issue, or a mental health issue, you would run one of those three tracks. And I think we could do a better job from a county, state, and city perspective, and Metro and police perspective, to say, hey, not everybody needs. Well, the jail should not be a place for homeless people to go. That should not be the housing facility. So we have to figure out a way to create routes for success. One of the things that often happens is people think that if you talk to a homeless person one time, that's going to get them from being homeless.
Sure.
It takes it takes up to 7 contacts to where you start to have an impact on the homeless. There's a program that people say, well, we're just going to take them off the streets and put them into housing. Well, if someone's a crackhead or has mental health issues and you put them into housing,
you're going back to the streets.
They're not going to be successful. What you may create is that place become a place of crime, of issues, and then all the residents in there hate you. So you have to provide a pathway to success. And so I think we need to look at, through the schools, our high schools and our colleges, opportunities to look for social workers or mental health. There's like an entry-level mental health, they call them, can't think of the name. We had it in Napa. And use them for their teaching, mentoring, and to start to work with these individuals that are experiencing this stuff. And the mental health facility at Charleston and Jones hasn't been improved in, I've been on a cop for almost 30 years, it hasn't been improved in, it's the same buildings. So do we need to look at, from a state perspective, reinvesting and making it more robust of a plan to address and bring people into that? So,
you know how some beaches have showers that you can take? What if there was something like that, almost like a locker room?
Well, they have that at the courtyard.
They do.
So the city courtyard is this new facility where they can go, they can shower, they can make phone calls, they can work on a computer.
Oh, wow.
They can store their stuff if they actually have a job. They can put everything in a locked facility, go to work, come back and pick it up.
Wow, that's awesome.
That is the courtyard. They did a really good job with that. But I think the next steps are, how do you transition them to getting them off the streets and into housing?
So where do they sleep? I know that's
well, when they're done there, they have to
Sleep.
Sleep somewhere else, yeah. So I think we need to find other alternatives for sleeping. You know, one of the things when I was in Napa, I'm not using Napa, it's only everything, but
It's another frame of
It's
reference.
another frame, but here's something that really, so when I was there, we were trying to, so Sonoma, the next county over, had the same homeless problems. And in fact, it was on their beltway, this green trail system they had. And in fact, there's YouTube videos of it. And they had signs, cops stay away, this is a sovereign area and all this other stuff. And somebody had some raw land, and they said, what we're gonna do is we're gonna invest, Sonoma County invested in tough sheds. And they built these tough shed villages, and they built showers and all this stuff for them. And they cleaned up that whole entire row and put them all over there. And it cost them, a couple $1 million. But if you think about a $2 million investment to give people a sense of ownership.
Absolutely.
Off the streets into an area. And in Napa, during the whole COVID crisis, Napa spent almost $25 million in putting up in hotels or motels throughout the valley. So if you take that $25 million, you could
just redirect it,
build and they'll go there. Now you have to police it and manage it, but what you're also doing is you also provide an opportunity for counselors and mental health
What
physicians
about giving
to go
them
there
a garden
and treat.
to tend too?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many other avenues, and so we have to start thinking of the traditional way of take you, put you in jail, or put you in the facility and be done with it. You have to figure out, because not everybody that's homeless is suffering from some type of mental issue. And if they are, let's figure out how to get them back on track, because I personally don't believe that it's inhumane. I think it's inhumane to allow people to sleep on the streets in their feces and everything else, as opposed to I think it's more humane to say, hey, we're going to show some tough love on you, and we're going to get you help, with the result being, once you're here, the job is to get you out. And so I think we have to, from a city perspective, county, metro, state, with all this COVID money and all this money that's come in, the PP, whatever, start using that money for, I think the state got $284 million from the opioid crisis. What is that going to do? What are they going to do with that?
Yeah, where did
we don't know yet. I know they have plans, but I talked about this, is if we're going to give nonprofits money, what's the accountability measures? What are the benchmarks you have to meet to get all the money? We're not going to give you $30 million and say, okay, go do what you want. No, you'll get in increments as we see you meet these benchmarks, because government is so good at just giving away money and saying, okay, hope you do the right
don't
thing.
give it to the right people.
That's true, because we're not connected to the right people.
What if you run into corruption while you're there in office?
My integrity won't allow me to stay silent. So I will speak out against that, bring it to the forefront. Again, I say this because for me, it's not like, oh, I got to survive off this. I have a pension, I have a retirement. I'm very comfortable. And so saying and doing the right things is what I stand for. My years in law enforcement, integrity that I pride myself on having, I'll bring to city council and make sure that, if you see that, call it out. And I think that's part of the problem too. I think electeds often don't call things out.
They're intimidated.
They're intimidated. I'll give you an example. Like right now, with our school system the way it is, I haven't heard any city council person, any county commissioner talk about the school system, how bad it is. Have you heard them talk about they have a platform. When have they said something about the school system? Say, hey, we got to do something better. And it's just like it's on deaf ears. And so having 4 grandkids that are about to enter the Clark County School District, I want to make sure they have the best opportunities. So, I'm going to use my platform to speak out. And it may not be popular at times, but this isn't a popularity contest.
Well, we're going to be vetting those candidates come Friday. So.
Oh, good. That's good. And the judges, too.
Oh, we vetted them on Sunday.
You did. Okay. Yeah. So, school board is one of those ones that you really have to make sure we're putting the right people in those seats. Because, it's a shame to see what our school system's become.
Brandy, you have anything else?
I could talk for a long time, but nothing.
Okay. Well, Mr. Plummer, I would like to thank you for coming on the program.
Appreciate it.
Mark's going to zoom in on you.
Okay.
And you tell folks why they should go to the voting booth and put you in the office and your point of contact.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, folks, I'm your guy, and here's why. 47-year resident in Las Vegas, 30 years in law enforcement. I'm a problem solver. I know Las Vegas challenges. I will work hard. I'm not in this for a career. I'm in this for the right reasons, to make sure that every constituent in Las Vegas is well represented. Ward 4 is represented. I can be reached at electrobertplummer.com. That's my website. You can learn more about what I'm passionate about, what I stand for. You can also join me on walks or make phone calls or be part of my campaign team. And if you want to make a donation, always welcome donations. But I'm going to work hard for you from day in and day out. This will be a full-time job for me, and I will not let you down. And I make this promise to all voters that if you go to the bottom of the ballot and start from the bottom, work your way up, you won't go wrong by checking yes for Robert Plummer as your next city councilman for Ward 4. So thank you for having me.
So you know, city council is a part-time job.
Right.
But you're gonna
I'm making full-time.
You're gonna quit
Bellagio.
Bellagio? Oh, very good for you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Mr.
right.
Plummer.
Thank you.
Folks, thank you, Brandy.
You're welcome.
Folks, that's Robert Plummer. He's a candidate for Las Vegas City Council Ward number 4. Make sure you educate yourself on candidates running for office. We educated ourselves on Mr. Plummer, and we also endorsed Mr. Plummer. So we want you guys to vote for Robert Plummer for Las Vegas City Council Ward 4. This is Steve Sanson and Brandy Monsmer with Veterans in Politics. Until next time.